Hello there. In this video, I'm going to be talking with you about how to use Teams for potential online instruction with your students. And I know that we don't know for sure if we will ever need to move to distance learning again or not, but it is always best to be prepared and make sure that our students are prepared as well. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Amy Thusen. I am the technology integration coach at Austin High School. And we have been professionally developing our staff at the high school to use Teams because we do currently have students with distance learning and distance learning needs. And so we do have teachers right now using Teams for students on a daily basis or with students on a daily basis. You will, if we move to distance learning, provide students with at least 3 live learning sessions per day using Teams. Now, again, this is not something we are doing currently, but it is something that if we have to move to distance learning, we will be providing for our students. So this video hopefully will help you prepare so that you know what to do on your end, and you also know what to expect or what students will be seeing on their end as well. So some of the things that you will be doing over Teams, like I said earlier, and like you are being trained in other sessions, students should have the opportunity to participate in 3 synchronous meetings per day. And again, synchronous means live and in person. It would be happening where all participants are experiencing it at the same time. These meetings should ultimately prioritize community building, social emotional education, and active engagement with their peers and the learning content. So here are some examples of the types of live sessions students will have opportunities to be a part of if they are in distance learning. Whole morning meetings for the class, Monday through Friday. And this is something that every classroom teacher will probably be doing in a distance learning situation. And this can happen soon after or at the start of the school day every day. Small group instruction should occur on Mondays through Thursdays. And this is a time for specific and differentiated learning for students depending on what groups and what learning they need. And then additional synchronous meetings may include active lessons from your specialists, so music, art, and Phi Ed lessons, any SPED or EL services, as well as interventions individual students need, and then any teacher office hours that classroom teachers need to do, or maybe an end of the day community building activity for students. So those are the kinds of sessions that teachers will be offering in Teams in a distance learning scenario. So now I'm going to move to the actual Teams part of things. Many of you have used Teams already as a way to have meetings as staff, and some of you used it last spring for distance learning. We are trying to be more thoughtful and prepared this fall as we consider the possibility of moving to distance learning at the elementary level. And again, nothing is for sure, but we want to be as prepared as possible. So you'll notice probably that I am not on a PC. I am using a Mac for this training because I also need to show you what things look like on an iPad for students, and to connect my iPad with my computer, I need to use a Mac. And so just bear with me. Teams, however, looks almost exactly the same no matter what computer you're using. So I am using the Teams app on my computer. And normally when I open Teams for the first time, it's going to take me to my activity feed. You are going to want to make sure that you open your team. Now, my recommendation is that right now, if you haven't already, you would create a team with your students in it who you have in the classroom right now. And so I have created a sample classroom team, and I have added a sample student to that team, another staff member here at the high school, but they are added as a student, as a member of this team. And you'll see here that I also have an initial welcome message for my class, and I have scheduled my morning meeting already. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to create a team if you haven't already, and I'm going to show you how to create meetings for your students to join. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about Teams channels, because you could make use of those if you want to, but you certainly don't have to. It's not a requirement, but it might help you organize things depending on what your own style is. So right here you see this is my sample classroom team page. If I go back here to all teams, I'm going to see all the teams I belong to. And these are teams that I've created and teams that I have joined or am a part of. And so you might see multiple teams for yourself as well. And your students may see multiple teams also, depending on if they're on a team for their main classroom and if their other teachers or other servicers have them in a team. So to create a team for your class, if you have not already, you're going to go up here in the Teams area and select Join or Create Team. And you've got a couple different options here. You could join a team with a code. This is if you are joining a different team. You want to make sure if you're having students join a team, you populate the team for them. They do not necessarily have to join a team with a code, because that creates a level of complication for students that we don't need to have them have. So you will create a team. And you need to make sure this team is a class team. There are different types of teams you can create, but we're looking at a class team. And then you give the team a name. Give it a description if you'd like. If you have an existing team that's already created and you want to use that team as a template for your new team, you want to copy some things, you can feel free to create a team using an existing team as a template, but I'm not going to at this time. And this is going to create the team for you. And then you're going to want to populate the students to your team. So in this case, you're going to want to add student emails or student ID numbers. And so you type in their name, their ID number, their email, and start adding them as we go along. So I'm going to just add a sample student to my team. And if I wanted to add Max Larson to my team, I'd click on his name, and then I'd choose another student. And I just keep choosing students and adding them to my team as I need them. So I'm looking for Keegan Larson. I'm going to add the whole Larson clan to my team. So I'm going to add all of my students here and then choose Add. I can also remove them as needed. If I accidentally add the wrong person, I can go ahead and X them out and make sure that they're removed. So I can add all the students in my class, click Add, and be done. I can also add co-teachers to my class. So if I have a para or I have a co-teacher, I can add them to my class as well. So I am going to just add another staff member to this class, just so you can see what that looks like. And I'm going to choose Add. And then here I've got this one person added to my class. This list may be long. And then once I'm done, I'm going to click Close. So here is my new sample class. And right now, ultimately, the base requirement is that you use this team to conduct your online meetings. Now, if you look at the top here, you will notice that there are other things that you can do with a team. I know that most of your content learning and what students are doing to show their learning happens on Seesaw, and I encourage you to use and continue to use Seesaw for this. Assignments and class notebook in Teams, they're a little bit more advanced, and if you haven't taught your students how to use them, and if you currently use Seesaw and your students know how to use Seesaw, I would encourage you to stay with Seesaw and really just use Teams for your online meetings. So, how do you create an online meeting in Teams? So if you'll notice, when you have the team selected, you're going to go up here and you can choose to meet or to schedule a meeting. Now you can choose to meet now, but if your students don't know when you're meeting, you need to make sure you schedule a meeting for them. So you're going to click here on schedule a meeting, and you want to create a title for your meeting. So like, let's say you've got morning meeting here. You do not need to add attendees, because if they belong to the team, they are going to see the meeting in their calendar and be able to join right from their calendar or from the team itself. Now, a morning meeting is a class meeting that's going to occur every day, every school day. So I'm going to go in here and change this from does not to repeats every weekday. And so I want to have it start on Monday, whatever day I want to start on. So I'm starting this on October 6th. That's today. But I can also go down here and customize this, and I can tell it where to end. So maybe I would choose to end my morning meetings at the end of the quarter or at the end of the semester, or however long that needs to happen. So here, this is going to be a meeting that occurs every Monday through Friday, starting on October 6th, and the last meeting will be on October 30th. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save. I do not, again, need to add any required attendees. I should maybe also add a location, and this would just be a reminder to students that this meeting takes place online. It does not take place in any physical location. And then here you'd have the details for this meeting. So, hello class. This is the event to join for our class morning meeting to start every school day. And you can include whatever else you want in the description here. And notice up here, this is the toolbar for this description area. So you can add links, you can add images, you can change your font color, etc. No matter what you want to do to make this approachable for your students. And then once you're done here, you're going to click Send. And once you click Send, you'll notice that this now shows up on your main meeting page as a post. And that's kind of handy because you can go to this post. This is kind of a chat area, conversation area for you and your students, and they can go to this post and see the schedule here. Now, this chat area and this post may kind of disappear once people start having conversations, once you have conversations with your students. And how you use the chat for your class is really up to you. This chat is open and live at all times. It doesn't have to be only used during an online meeting. Students technically have access to view this chat at any time. So, with that being said, I do want to point out that you, as the teacher of this class or of this team, can change permissions for this chat. Since you're in a team, you can go ahead and go up here and you can manage the team. And in this team, you can see, in this team management area, you can see who is a member of the team. And I have two owners here, two owners because we're each teachers. I can manage the channels, which I'm going to talk a little bit about later. But if I go here to settings, I can change member permissions. And I can allow or disallow teachers and students from doing certain things in my team. And again, this is a team chat area and a team outside of just your online meetings. So you might want to consider these settings as you set it up for your students. One thing you might want to consider is giving members the option to edit their messages and delete their messages. You might find, since students have access to the chat all the time, that if students are chatting in this meeting or in this team outside of class, you will want to have these unchecked so students can't post messages that are inappropriate and then choose to delete them so their teacher doesn't see them. So that's something to consider as well. And then guest permissions, chances are you won't have guests entering your meetings. And then there's other permissions that you can look at here. These are basically based upon how you want to organize your team and your chat especially. So if I go back to my general window here, I can also do that for this individual chat. If I click on more options, I can manage this channel. And if you don't want students posting at all in the chat, you can choose to allow owners, and that's the teacher, to post messages alone. You can choose not to have students post messages to the chat for that channel. So just keep that in mind. You can change those settings for yourself. Now, you have a meeting set up. Anytime you want to schedule a meeting for your students, this is where you do that. You go up here, you schedule a meeting, and if a student belongs to that team, that meeting will show up in their team and also on their calendar. And I'm going to show you the student view here in a moment. I want to briefly take some time to talk a little bit about channels. So a channel is a subgroup of your team. Now, by default, when you create your team, one general channel is created. Now, you can use this general channel for everything you do with your class, and that can be enough. Some of you, however, may want to divide your class and your meetings and your team, in essence, into different channels. And I'm going to show you how to do that very briefly and talk a little bit about the possible benefits and drawbacks of using channels. If you want to add a channel to your group, you can go ahead and do that by clicking on these three dots by your class team name, choosing adding a channel, and then giving that channel a name. Now, I might call this channel reading practice. So this might be a small group that I'm having students participate in. Now, you can set the privacy to be standard, and now this is accessible to everyone on the team. But here's where channels can get both complicated and effective. So you could actually have this channel be private, and it, in this way, is only accessible to certain students. So if you have small groups of students that are predefined, you can divide them into their individual channels where only those students can access the team information and the team meetings and the team events, which can be very nice, but also, again, adds a level of complexity for you and your students. Once I've done that, maybe this is reading practice group A. And then I'm going to go here, add the channel, and tell it what students can see that channel or group. So I'm going to add individual students to that channel. And in this case, I'm just going to add a sample staff member. And in this case, I guess it's not a member of the team, so I can't do that. I'll add Emily Hovland since she's already a member of the team. It's going to put Emily in that channel. Now, once that's done and I've populated that group, I've got my whole class channel and I've got my small group channel. And you can see here that that's locked. Only the students that I've put in that small group can see that channel. And regardless of what channel I'm in, I can create a team meeting. So I can meet in my small group and work with that team meeting. Now, one drawback of a channel is that here in this case, I can't schedule a meeting. I meet during a live time, and that is kind of a drawback. So if you want to have meetings show up on the schedule for that team, you have to schedule them in the general. So that's a drawback of channels. I talked earlier about how it can be a good thing, but it also can be a negative thing or a problematic thing for however you want to set up your team. And so if the students know exactly already what time they need to meet, they would just go to that channel and choose meet. So maybe new conversation, you can let them know this group meets every Monday and Wednesday at 10 o'clock a.m. Click the Meet button in the upper right-hand corner of your screen to join our meeting. So now everybody in this group would see that. they could click up here on Meet and meet at a specific time. But this does take a little bit of organization for you. If you're not very familiar with Teams, and if your students are not very familiar with Teams, I would recommend just not using channels. Actually, I'm going to remove this. I've got one hidden channel, and then just using the general. And then maybe later you could start using the regular. So now the channels, I'm sorry. So now I'm going to show you what this looks like on a student iPad. So let me just switch views here. So here I'm screen sharing an iPad, and this is what students would see, depending on what apps they have on their iPads and how you're managed. This is a personal iPad, but I have the Teams app down here. So when a student opens a Teams app, they should not have to log in every single time they join the Teams app. They may have to, they may have to periodically if they haven't used it in a while. That's why it's good to have them practice their login information, but they should not have to. Now, the Teams app should open with the most recent view that they used, but it might default to open in the activity view, which is this view you're seeing here. So you're going to want to train your students on how to view their team and to view their calendar. And so at the bottom of the Teams app is the Teams icon. And that will show, if the student clicks on Teams, that will show all the teams they belong to. And here you can see that I'm viewing my sample classroom team. And this is what the student will see when they open their sample classroom team. If they only belong to one team, they will only see one team here. If they belong to more than one team, they will see more teams listed on the left. And you can see here in the posts, I show an event that occurs every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at 8:30 a.m. And I also see, as we progress through the class, times when meetings were held, and we can have conversations in this area amongst members of the team. Now, when a student wants to join a meeting, they're going to want to do it through their calendar. And again, the calendar icon is at the bottom of the iPad screen, and they will need to click on it. If for some reason the student does not see the calendar icon on the bottom of their Teams app, they may be using a phone, they may be using a smaller screen, the calendar will show up if you click on the 3 dots for more. So here my calendar shows up at the bottom of my screen, but if it doesn't, they would need to click on more, and then the calendar app would show up as one of those apps. But I'm going to just go to the calendar view here. Now this calendar view on the left is going to show all events that the students have been invited to through Teams. And so you can see here that I've got all of my meetings. And again, this is my personal iPad, so you're seeing events that I as a teacher have been invited to or have subscribed to. But you can see here that on October 6th, I've got a morning meeting to attend. And so a student can just click on that morning meeting and then join right from there. That's what you're going to want to show your students how to do before we ever have to go to distance learning, if we have to go to distance learning. So when they want to join the meeting, they're going to find the day. So today is October 6th, tomorrow is October 7th. They find that meeting, so morning meeting, and then just click the join button, and that will allow them to join the meeting. And you're probably going to want to train them to join with their video off and their microphone off. That way, when multiple students are joining your meeting, you're not going to hear all their background noise, and you're not going to necessarily hear see all of the things in their background. Now, another training we'll talk about, and perhaps you already know this, how to show students how to set backgrounds, virtual backgrounds, so you do not see what's going on behind them, so you don't invade their home privacy. So once a student wants to join the meeting, they select Join Now. I'm not going to join that meeting now because it would conflict with all the other things that I have going on my screen, but that is what a student will see, and that is how they do it. So anytime they have a meeting, it will show on the left in their calendar view on the iPad. Again, go from Teams view to calendar view, and it highlights what app or what tool you're in on the bottom in purple. So I'm in my calendar view. I select the meeting I want to join and then click join. Now, a student may join the meeting outside of the meeting time, but until that teacher joins the meeting, the student just waits in a waiting room. So even if the student joins the meeting outside of the organized time, they can't get in the meeting until the teacher has started the meeting. They'll just kind of wait there in limbo until the teacher starts the meeting officially. So that's really what a student sees when they are using the iPad Teams app to view both their team and their calendar to join a meeting. And that's what you're going to want to show kids how to do as we prepare them for possible distance learning. So hopefully you will be able to take some time now to prepare your students for using Teams. Now again, and I've said this before multiple times, we don't know for sure if we'll ever need to move to distance learning, but we want to be more prepared and more thoughtful than we were able to be last spring. And if we do that, the learning experience for students in a distance environment will be much more engaging and much more powerful than it was in the past. So my advice to you is to prepare students for possibly needing to use Teams on a regular basis by practicing their school email and password logins. That can be complicated depending on the age of the student. Practice with the Teams app in your classroom on student iPads. Give them a chance to feel what that feels like with your guidance and with you in the room. So when they're on their own, they're comfortable enough to do it by themselves. So show them how to open the Teams app, find the team for the classroom, find the calendar and see where the meeting is, and then maybe have them join and participate in some practice meetings online so that they know what that feels like, they know what it looks like to join, they know how to turn on and off their microphone. Get them to explore it with you there, with them, guiding them, so that when it comes again to being on their own or with just a parent or guardian, they can do it without needing help. If you have any questions, you can feel free to contact Lana Peterson or myself at the high school. You can email me anytime and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.